I woke up in a soft bed and warm room, thinking everything was just another dream. I opened my eyes, hoping to see my room, but this was not the case. The ceiling was low and unfamiliar, and I was covered with an itchy blanket. The warmth and only light was coming from a small fireplace near the foot of the bed. I felt a little dizzy and could hear a soft crackle of fire as I looked around the unfamiliar dancing shadows. It was making me afraid until I saw him. Weller was leaning against the wall next to the door with his eyes closed. Seeing him was like getting a huge dose of sedatives. He wasn't a dream at all. "Asleep at your post?" I asked softly. My voice came out scratchy and my throat felt like I swallowed a cactus. I knew he wasn't sleeping. I watched enough movies to know the hero was never really deep in slumber when he was supposed to be guarding someone. "No, Lady Priestess," he replied. He looked at me with a soft expression. His eyes twinkled in the firelight. Only resting my eyes for a moment. Jor Winewood will be in shortly to take his shift. I blushed. Somehow I had acquired an intense and immediate trust and love for this man. I began to fidget with my hands. "You both go by the name called Jor. Is that like a knight or something?" His lips widened and he exhaled through his nose. A Jor is a title given to a proven fighter for the priestess. All Jor are born of noble blood and trained by only the most skilled fighters. Out of all the candidates, only the strongest two are chosen to protect the priestess. The others serve as generals in the king's army. I nodded and looked around, trying to get some kind of sense of where I was. I heard water rippling faintly in the distance, a few crickets chirping, and I think I heard an owl. The room was made of large wooden logs that looked slightly warped or rotting. It could have just been the way the fire hit the room, though. I suppose the look on my face was one of worry, because Weller's expression changed. "Are you ill, Lady Priestess?" he asked. He was suddenly next to my bed, kneeling beside me. His speed caused me to jump for a moment, but his scent was so intoxicating that I found myself leaning into him. If he moved this fast just because I looked worried, I imagine he would be even faster if I was in real danger. I wished he were closer to my age. He was so caring and attentive, more so than any guy in my class. He would treat me like a lady, not like that weird girl in school. Just my luck. I'd be the only heroine who doesn't get the brave and sexy love interest character. "No, Jor Logan, I'm okay. I just don't have any clue what's going on here." I tried to clear my throat. "Why are you so diverted to me? Where am I? What's going on? And why do you keep calling me your priestess?" His smile instantly calmed my nerves. "Because you are the Lady Priestess." He reached over to the cup on the table by my bed and handed it to me. "You're currently located in the small village of Lod. It's very close to the capital where we'll be taking you." "Capital?" I repeated like a parrot. I took a sip of cool water. Swallowing hurt at first, but eventually my throat and mouth were grateful for the moisture. "The capital city of Indaris is called Aldavia." "Indaris?" "Indaris is made up of 4 small islands and island groups, all connected to a larger mass by bridges. The only image I can give you is that of the pendant around your neck." I held the pendant in my hand. "My necklace?" "Yes, Lady Priestess. It bears the symbol of the royal family and is made in the image of Indaris. We are currently located on the main island of Alderos, the blue stone there in the middle." Do fantasy names always just have to be so impossible? But I suppose they're no different from the cities and states if you really think about it. I took a deep breath away from my mindless repeating. "Okay, so what does this Indaris place have to do with me?" He smiled. "That's complicated to explain in your current state. You need your rest." "Well, try," I said firmly. He let out a deep sigh. "Our world is in peril." Well, that's always how it starts. "When we need the princess of Alderos to regenerate Indaris. Every few hundred years, our life source, called the Essence, runs low and needs to be replenished. Only the power of the Priestess of the Blood can accomplish this task." "The Essence? What's that?" "Without it, nothing would grow. and life would cease to exist. This is starting to sound like a video game I played once. Lady Priestess? I shook my head. Nothing. So I have to travel to this capital city, Aldavia, not far from here, perform some sort of rite to recharge this essence battery thing, and then all the people of Andaris can live happily ever after for another few hundred years. Is that right? Very good, Lady Priestess. You know your task. That's just the way these quest games always go. It's like a cliche or something. He tilted his head slightly to the right to understand my rambling. So, how do you know that I'm your priestess? Your arrival has been foretold, written on the sacred scroll from the overseers. The priestess who shall save us all will possess a mane of deep red hair and eyes as blue as the sea. I interrupted, and will come from far away land and have strange ways, blah blah blah. Okay then, I thought it was something along those lines. Geez, real life quests shouldn't be just like the games, assuming I'm not dreaming, that is. I did eat a lot of pizza, and I tried to eat that whole cake myself. I wonder if this quest comes with a player's guide. He furrowed his brow. I knew that look well. He thought I was crazy too, just like everyone else. The scroll never told of your ability to see the future, but I suppose you are the priestess after all. Nah, I just play a lot of quest games. Tales games are good. Zelda games are the best. There was a pause and I twiddled my thumbs. I reluctantly reached out and touched the bandage on his hand. Does it hurt? That cut looked awfully deep before. He chuckled softly and gently began to curl his fingers around mine. No, my lady. This is my first injury in your service. I will wear it proudly. I could feel the heat rising to my face. My heart was racing. So, this priestess must be a very important person. Yes, she is the only one who can save Andaris. Well, if the priestess is so important, why wouldn't she have more than 2 Jor? I mean, I have faith in you and all that, but there can only be 2, Lady Priestess. That's just the way things are done. It doesn't really answer my question, I mumbled. Lady Priestess? 2 against the world? I mean, what if something horrible happened and I needed to defend myself? He lowered his head. If you feel we are inadequate. Whoa, no, I'm just saying is all. I mean, it's the 2 of you. If we get separated... He looked me in the eyes. I will never let anything happen to you, my lady. Sorry, my dad just always wants me to have working knowledge of self-defense, but we never covered swordplay. I tried to chuckle. Never mind. Listen, Jor Lorgan, will you please stop addressing me so formally? It makes me feel super weird. My name is Cricket. Lady Priestess, as your protector, it's improper for me to address you so informally. He stopped playing with my fingers and pulled his hand away. It broke my heart a little more than it should. Well, in public, sure, but we aren't in public, are we, Weller? My Lady Priestess, he protested. Cricket, I corrected. Lady Priestess, he stressed. I cannot behave in such an improper manner. I rolled my eyes and gave up. Whose place is this, Jor Lorgan? A man by the name by Essen Tiernan. Oh, I remember him. He was so brave. He stood up to Jor Breen while everyone else ducked in fear. Aaron Breen is no Jor. Wellen looked more shocked by his outburst than I did. Forgive me, Lady Priestess. I did not mean to startle you. I placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. Jor Breen, Aaron, really upsets you, doesn't he? He scoffed and spoke in harsh tones, clenching his hands tightly around the blanket on my bed. I would prefer you call him Jor than to hear his name on your lips, Lady Priestess. He took a deep breath and released a little tension. Of all the things he is, Aaron Breen is still a High Lord in the Southern Province. If you must bring him up, he should be referred to as Lord Breen. I smiled. I finally understood. A first name here must be very special and only spoken between close friends, relatives, lovers. It was silly of me to insist he do something considered so intimate. He must have been embarrassed. I gently rubbed his shoulders. If I have offended you, Jor, I apologize. I'm afraid I'm not familiar with your customs. In my world, we call everyone by their first names, even people we just met. It just indicates that there is, or at least can be, a friendship between us. But you're right. I released him. Remaining on a last name basis will keep us from becoming too friendly. It's a sign of deep respect, professionalism, and dignity. He snatched my hand back before I got too far away. No, Lady Priestess, it is I who must apologize to you for being so abrupt. There was a gentle knock at the door. He quickly released my hands and stood. Lorne peered in. Hope I'm not interrupting. He showed off his brilliant white teeth. On second thought, I hope I am. He had to duck to make it through the doorway. I couldn't help but smile back. His deep brown eyes, his smile, even his laugh made me feel at ease. I suddenly missed Deshawn. Jor Winewood, chided Weller, you are to await the command of the priestess before entering. Well, according to the priestess, it is her own request that we not be so formal with her. He winked at me, and I tried to hide a smile from Weller. You were eavesdropping? Asked Weller. No, Lorne protested sarcastically. I never heard you explaining her task or her desire to be called an insect. Cricket, I corrected. This is highly improper, Jorah Winewood. Of course it is, Weller. Lorne gave Weller a playful backhand smack to his chest, knocking him off balance. Weller coughed from the hit. That's what makes it so wonderful. This priestess is truly a grand young woman. A deep chuckle rumbled from his chest. Weller growled before turning his attention back to me. He bowed at the waist, dismissing himself, and turned to storm out. I was pretty sure that was a breach in protocol, but he seemed sort of angry and in a hurry to leave. I called to him, Jor Lorien, please don't go. He stopped short of the door and glanced back at me. Jor Winewood is here to protect you now. Please, get some rest, Lady... Cricket. He closed the door behind him. Oh, he must really like you, young lady, said Lorne. Why do you say that? Well, he and I have known each other for a very long time, serving the previous priestess, and he's not once called me by my first name. What did he say? I was confused. Previous priestess? I thought the time between priestesses was like eons or something. Well, Lorne looked embarrassed, like he let something slip that he shouldn't have. He rolled his eyes to the ceiling, rubbing the back of his neck. There was a priestess before you only a few years ago. She was supposed to perform the rite, but ended up getting herself killed when He trailed off. Well, Jor Lorgen blames himself. Now the essence is nearly spent and people everywhere are suffering. Well, I'm sure it wasn't his fault. There was an awkward silence. I could tell Lorne was hiding something from me about the previous priestess, but I wasn't going to pry. Though, I could most likely guess. He could tell me in his own time. I had to break the silence. Geez, Lorne, don't you own a shirt? Lorne let out a loud laugh. And cover up all this magnificence? He gestured through his broad chest and rippling muscles. I smiled. He was gonna be fun. So why is that your accent is so different from Weller's? Lord almost sounded like he was from Scotland, but not quite. His accent wasn't anywhere near as thick. Well, we come from different areas of Indaris. The farther you go west, the more people will start to sound like me. The farther you go east, the more people will start to sound like Jor Lorgen. The same for north and south. My accent's northwestern. Will I get to see the different islands? I would very much like to see where you hail from. Lorne laughed so loud I thought the ceiling would collapse. Where I hail from? Cricket, please. I've been to your lands. I know that girls your age do not speak in such terms. There's no need for you to put on airs for me. Oh. I was embarrassed and let out a large yawn. He smiled and placed his large hand on my head. Rest now, Lady Priestess. You will need your strength. I nodded and drifted off to sleep.